it just gave me this feeling of like happiness to literally stand at the end credits and say like, I've done it. Hi, my name is Patrick Balthazar, and I'm the Chief Technical Officer.
Hi, my name is Zai Peters, and I'm the lead designer. The thing that I guess really drew me to working on Zal was the world that Abu imagined of Kenzera and the character of Zal, and taking him on this journey of grief. That's a really personal journey, as you know, leading the adventure, and the idea of the two masks and what that could do for gameplay, and introduce some really interesting setups with the mechanics that we're going to have in the game.
For me, it's quite different. I think it was mostly the visuals that made the huge difference to me. When I saw like the presentation by Abu, and like he talked about the whole story, the whole like color scheme, this whole like African mythology and Afrofuture, this whole idea also presented like in movies nowadays and everything. I just got so fascinated by it that really drew me in.
Yeah, the Bantu inspiration, I think, gives it a really different, distinct flavour and style to the game, that you don't really see often in other games. Exactly. Or even other forms of media. And yeah, I think it gives it a really unique spin. For me, I guess design's role in delivering like a really good gameplay experience is partly delivering on the creative director's vision, but also balancing that with the player in mind, and I guess specifically the target audience for that particular project. So yeah, I think that's what really is like the big aspect of design in delivering a good gameplay experience.
Yeah, from a technical perspective, it's, I guess, all about the execution. It's the better the team, the better the code, the more time we're able to take to make it good, the better the game will be in the end. It's pretty much as simple as that. It's very influenced, heavily influenced by design naturally, and I think that code is only as good as the design can be.
Yeah, I think with design, there's, you know, it's kind of, it relies a lot upon code and also the other disciplines in working well together in sort of cohesive experience, and making sure design decisions are kind of purposeful for that particular project. But yeah, it's certainly a collaborative effort where different disciplines are supporting each other.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I think a good coder is also a good designer in a way, at least able to give the feedback to the design department, making sure that ideas can come from everywhere. Right?
Yeah, and vice versa. I guess with design having, you know, good sort of technical mind, it just makes that bridge of communication a lot easier between design and code to deliver ultimately what the team wants to achieve. From the design aspect, and this also bridges, I guess, onto the technical side, was the idea of the masks, right? And really giving them defining unique roles in the game and having a seamless switch between the two of them, but with them also being unique, also being very complementary in that, you know, the player's switching and has reason to switch between the two, and that being both on a combat and traversal side. And then also developing a world for the use of those masks, and that's supported, and that kind of unfolds as you learn and gain more abilities with the masks. So yeah, I think that's kind of been like the big aspect from the design side, and making sure that also marries up with the narrative as well in the story that we wanted to deliver. Zal's going on this journey of growth, and the players also going on this journey of growth as well, with the gameplay mechanics as Zal's overcoming his and learn to deal with his grief.
From a coding or technical perspective, it's certainly not as complicated or not as well faceted, I guess. But like you mentioned, traversal, combat, the main pillars of our game certainly have to play a role, and when they work together really well, that's where like the interesting bit in coding comes in, I think. You get these like overlaps, these interferences, these parts of the gameplay that need to work together in all situations, not just, you know, the ones that you initially think about, like the corners and rough edges need to be softened. And I think that that's what makes it interesting. That's certainly like a technical challenge that is worth working on.
It's, you know, Zao is ultimately a Metroidvania game, and it's hard to be making a Metroidvania without kind of calling back to classics as Super Metroid and Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Those really sort of embody the structure that we're playing through, with the progression of the abilities and the world unfolding as you gain more abilities. And also then looking to modern entries in the genre with the Guacamelee and Ori series, and also Hollow Knight, just to see how the genre's evolved over the years into a modern standard. And then on the combat side, I think we really want to deliver fast, fluid, responsive, dynamic action combat, and a lot of our time spent playing the Devil May Cry series and the God of War series, I think, really influenced our take on that.
On the technical side, influences are more or less experiences, I would think. How development has been done at other companies with other games are certainly helping to move things forward. As a new studio, a new team in general, there is a lot of learning to listen to each other, to communicate the right way, to make sure that you're not just following the main goal, but also taking along and looking left and right every step, making sure that in a code you're not just doing the code itself, but think about what else do we need to do to make it great. A lot of that comes also from not just working programmatically, systematically, but think about auto testing, other kinds of ways to help development, tooling, making sure that other departments get their share of data-driven development. And like I said, the team needs to be built into that as well, not just the game and the influences for the game.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point in terms of the team that we've cultivated for all the disciplines, and having a good structure and working relationships between them, so that everyone can also input a part of themselves into the team, from also those outside experience, life experiences as well, and that being delivered into the game. I think one of the big things I think that immediately players will be able to grasp when they play the game is that sort of that immediate responsiveness and fast, fluid movement of the character. Just the character does what it does when you want it to do it, right? And that direct sort of correlation between the inputs on the sticks and what's happening in game, and the options and choices between the two masks, and being able to flip differently between the two. And this is supported both, I think, on the game design side and the tech side. That's kind of supported that as well, along with the worlds that we've built, where it's to the metrics of those mechanics, and supports that fluid movement and control of Zao through the world.
While certainly the visuals brought me into this game, I would say the ability to move, like you mentioned, instantly, very high responsiveness through the world in this gorgeous, story-heavy game is certainly the biggest aspect why I like it so much.
So you might agree. I think one of our biggest challenges has obviously been combat experience. I think one of the reasons behind that is being that it's very much, not that other parts of the game aren't the same, but so much relies on the collaboration of design, code, animation, VFX, and audio to really make that feel right and feel compelling. So it has to have everyone singing from the same hymn sheet and working together cohesively to really deliver on that. But I think we've done a really good job in kind of systematically looking at issues as they've arisen during development, and really kind of being able to break those out and tackle those individually, and just using an iterative process and a collaborative process where, you know, we've put in a structure for the team to be able to really take ownership of those problems and kind of deliver solutions for those.
Couldn't agree more. Combat is certainly like the biggest challenge in this game, to make it right and feel right for everyone. And there is a certain aspect where combat is experienced by everyone differently. And we obviously want to cater to as many as possible while keeping the vision right? Like you mentioned, like we want to have like it fast-paced, really easy to pick up, the two masks, switching between, having very different play styles between them. It is just fun to experiment with it. It's fun to play with it. And I think we got a good mix now. We took the time, the team worked together, all disciplines worked together to bring it to this state. And from now on, it's only going to get better, I think.
I think there's that big aspect of, with the combat, that side of the player abilities on Zhao with his combat moves, but then also the enemies, right? And having those archetypes all kind of support each other, and getting the AI working as well to kind of not only have cool moves that Zhao can perform, but then also have the right kind of challenges and questions being asked of the player to kind of use those moves in interesting ways. So yeah, it's really just kind of making these different components kind of gel together. But it's been a good challenge to try and overcome, I think. A really big sort of first milestone for the team was the vertical slice. The vertical slice being a representative chunk of the game that's kind of to final target quality early on, especially as a startup studio, a lot of individuals who've never worked with each other before in a company that is new, really kind of get into that milestone of being like, oh, okay, we can achieve a vision for what the final quality of the game is going to be like, and that really kind of set a good benchmark for the rest of the work to come after that.
I think the biggest milestone for me in this game was also receiving and seeing for myself the game from start to end, playing all the bosses, especially like Impundulu being like one of my favorite ones. That's an encounter that is just staggeringly beautiful and challenging to play. It just gave me this feeling of like happiness to literally stand at the end credits and say like, I've done it, I've played it, we're there.
So for me, I think Patrick's been really great at having a really good high-level overview of the project. Being able to kind of really pinpoint out issues that we've had and really kind of really kind of dial down into the root of those problems, and being able to kind of calmly as well also and objectively look at them and the best way to solve them. And you always have a really cool head about taking those on, I think.
I think Zai is an absolute brilliant designer in general speak, but he has shown, especially I would say in the last few weeks, the work on the enemies, work on combat in general, how and where his quality is really lying. The ability to come up with ideas that can be completely out of the box, or sometimes so far away from what anyone else, or at least how I would think at least, is something to look up to, something enjoyable. It's good to work with you.
Thank you.
So I was fascinated coming to the studio, noticing how many young talents are working with us and the quality that they're able to deliver in every aspect. And I'm not just talking about code. I myself am working with like 4 people out of 6 who are either new to game development completely or just finished uni and came in like hot off the shelf, basically. And within just a mere 2 months, they established themselves in ways that I could have never thought possible. They're enthusiastic, hardworking, loving the project, loving the team, and I just want to have a shout out here on like how great it is to not just have senior talent who does all the carrying of the heavy lifting and the baggage basically to make games work, but how the young talent is like doing everything to help them with all their heart.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think a big remit of the team has been cultivating the new generation of game developers. And on the design side, part of that was taking on an intern as well, doing a work placement for a year with us. And we also took on a junior level designer after he graduated too. And just being able to kind of see them grow and get better and help them along their journey, and use our own experiences to help guide them and help them improve along the way. It's really exciting to see, and just kind of makes them your mind sort of spin in terms of like what they are going to be able to achieve in the not too distant future as well.
I'm looking forward to see that. Yes,
me too.
Truth to be told, while the game is amazing, I think the reason that made the difference for me to join the studio, to join you guys, to work on this project, was certainly Abu. Like, someone so inspiring is very rare to find. And every minute I spend with him is something that I treasure. It's something that helps me getting motivated, helps me getting up every morning and just do what I love doing.
I like what I love about working with Abu is like he's so easy to communicate with and talk to. It's not like he's the lofty creative director, but he's like another person in the studio. And one of the great things I think is that he challenges me to think in different ways outside my sort of typical train of thought, which is a really good and healthy thing to do. I think pushes me outside my own boundaries to try and overcome challenges in new ways. I think it's been really great to work with, and the energy he brings to the team is really motivating. It really helps to kind of push along and have someone who's so passionate about the project as well, right? The kind of very core idea of it is very, personal and near and dear to his heart. So it's been a really sort of inspiring and motivating factor for development of the game. It's not just another project, it means so much on another level to him, and then by that extension to us as well.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.